Well, we're now with Elsie Fleury. Elsie, what are your recollections of the Second World War?
Well, I was 8 when the war broke out, and I remember we had to, about 6 months later, we had to go to school. I lived on Merseybank, and I went to school in Ballahall, and we had to go in the hall and we got our gas mask, and we had to carry them at all times. We never had to take them off we had them across our bodies, and we had to learn how to put them on and everything. And then I used to walk to school and walk home, and then my father worked at, he was a security guard, and he used to work shift work. But before he went to work, we had the Anderson shelters. My mum made us siren suits, me and my two sisters. And we used to put our siren suits on when the alarm went, when the sirens went. And my dad we had bunks and candles, and we had a bag always packed with something in it, water and sweets or something. And my dad used to lock us in for the night. We used to have to sleep in the bunk beds, and my dad locked us in when he went off on nights. And then in the morning when he came home, he used to let us out.
Did you have toilet facilities in there?
Pardon?
Did you have to have a bucket or a toilet of some kind?
We had a bucket. We had buckets, and my mum was great with us, really, because she used to tuck us up and what have you. But we used to long for my dad coming, and we used to have to go in then, and depending on, it would be about 6 or 7 o'clock, we would have to have a wash and get ready for school and have our breakfast. And then we had to walk to school. But then what I remember mostly was my grandma, she was coming down the path one day to get in the school, and she got caught in the washing line. And she thought the Germans had landed her because she was wrapped up in the washing line. And I mean, we thought that was hilarious, but we had to put her to bed for the day. and then later on my father was called up, and he was in the medical corps. And a couple of days before he was called up, he took us out for the day, and then he went off, and we didn't see him for a while because he was going over to France in what they call the Ducks.
Right.
And in the meantime, we had the air raid sirens every night, and we didn't go out then in the shed, in the Anderson shelter. We just got under the table or in the coal shed. And we were just, if there was, somebody said there was tomatoes going without rations, we used to mother used to send me to one shop and my sister to another, and we'd get a couple of tomatoes each, which was fantastic.
What did you think when you saw a banana?
Oh, I don't remember that.
How did you feel then during the air raids and the bombs? Were you scared?
Oh, yeah. Well, we went to live then with my grandma when my dad went away, and my grandma lived in Moss Side. And on the night of the Blitz, we used to go under the stairs with my grandma and granddad. But I was absolutely terrified. I was worse than my sister. And I used to say I wanted to stay in bed, but we had to go under the stairs. And my grandma, we wondered where my grandma was. And my granddad said, "Where's she gone? Where's she gone? You stay there, I'll go and look for her." And she was at the gate, and she watched these all fairy lights coming down in the sky. And they were the bombs. They were all lit up at the end or something. And that was when, the night that the Moss Side, do you remember Stratford Road?
Yeah.
And my granddad worked at a shoe shop. He managed a shoe shop on Stratford Road. And we dragged my granny in and we got under the stairs and what have you, and it was awful. It really was awful that night, because we were not far from Stratford Road then, in Moss Side. And the following morning my granddad was worried about the shop. So we got dressed, and I was the elder of my sisters. And we were walking towards Stratford Road to the shop, and it was heartbreaking. We were just walking over rubble, and all the shops were down on Stratford Road. And yeah, and the shop he worked at was still up, but
there's one called Paulding's there, wasn't there?
yeah, Paulding's, yeah, and
Paulding's, yeah.
yeah, Paulding's. And then my mum said we'd go back home because it would be better where we were on Merseybank. But in the meantime, a time bomb had dropped in the house next door but one.
Oh, blimey.
So the people next door but one had to come, well, they asked, could they come and live in our house? So the people next door and the people next door but one came to live in our house. So there was about an elderly couple and a younger couple, and there was me and the three my two sisters and my mum. And we had a ball, with them all being children. They gave us their sweet ration, and they gave me their butter ration.
How did the family cope with all the rationing?
Well, my mum used to get tins of spam and coat it with batter, yeah. And we used to have dried egg, and I loved that. You know, did we constitute or something? Egg.
Did you have powdered milk as well?
Powdered milk?
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
No.
But and then much later on, when the war finished, and I got married, I thought, well, I got married at 20, and the rationing was still on. So when I came back from my honeymoon, I thought, I'll go to the shops, but you couldn't because you'd got ration books. I didn't know what to do with them.
Interestingly, the last chap he interviewed, he had a ration book from 1953, I think.
Yeah, that's the last.
Was it?